The focus is to look at the objectives and how to study them in a way from your reading to actually retain the knowledge long term. Most of you have heard of the training scale, so I developed the study scale as a method to study, with a focus being on recall and review, and that's the key elements of the study scale to actually retain knowledge for the long term. It's pretty surprising. A lot of people don't know some of the key elements on that study scale that actually work. Well, the study scale starts with survey, then the next level is question. So you take some of the key ideas in the chapter, or you use the objectives which are provided, which really help, and you create questions from that. And then you go to reading, but you don't want to read passively, and that's a mistake a lot of people make. You want to form your questions from your reading, and as you're reading, read as if you're answering the question. And then when you take notes, you don't want to just take notes from the book word for word. You want to write it in your own words. That's the important thing, because that forces you to think more and check understanding. Then the next step on the level is recall. So when you're done answering your question, and you've got your notes and you've written it in your own words, then you stop and you try to say it out loud and answer your question, and that helps solidify it in your mind. And even better, I have one interesting slide that shows the different ways that you can recall and that you're more likely to remember stuff you've learned by teaching it to others. So recall is really important, and you actually should spend more time on recall than you do reading. And then the top part of the study scale is review. And that's when you just dedicate a little time each week to review the stuff you've already learned and just briefly go over it by answering the objectives that you have. And that way, if you do that every week, some of the older material that you first started with becomes easier and easier. So by the time you get to the Dressage for Kids test, you're not cramming at the last minute to get all this information. And because you've done recall and review, it really solidifies it in your brain and you're more likely to remember it longer.